Maverick News, the antivirus program for your mind. And now, the Freedom Reporters.
Good evening, everyone, and I have to get that logo off. My apologies, so much going on here, so many buttons to push. Let me stop that as well. And get all the technical stuff firing properly here so we have a proper broadcast. There we go. We are now live on all platforms. Everything's rocking and rolling, and we have some live coverage coming from McGill again tonight, where our good friend and contributor Dragon is on the scene at the protest at McGill University, Montreal. We'll update you on the hunger strike that's beginning at Penn State. We'll just talk about all of this crazy stuff, including the burning of a Koran in Sweden, which is just going to escalate everything ahead of that huge Eurovision music festival coming up. So stay with me. I'll be right back, and Dragon will join us live on the other side of this.
Maverick News. The world is watching. Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, Maverick News. Defending free speech, free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Okay, let's go live right now to Dragon at McGill. There he is. Hey, how are you, sir? A little bit of delay there.
What's up, guys?
Dragon, thank you
Great.
again for
How are
joining
you,
us
sir?
tonight. Yes, what's happening there? Describe the scene for us.
Well, right now they are protesting and doing some chants, actually, and as you can see, it's pretty loud. So, yeah, and it's pretty much like a picnic today. I will call that the picnic of the good groups.
Okay. When you're speaking, to get best audio, if you could look right into the camera, because the camera's doesn't pick your audio up when you turn away from the camera. So you need to be, close to it and facing it. How big is the crowd there tonight, Dragon?
So that's better.
Yes, it is much.
I hope that's better.
Much better. How big is the crowd?
Well, I would say that the crowd is a little bit less crowded than the other day, actually.
Yeah, and again, look at the camera. Don't look
Less crowded.
behind you. Look right into the
Definitely
camera for
less
us so we can
crowded.
hear you and see you.
Right.
Yeah, just keep
So, yeah,
looking. Perfect. That's right. Look right into that
It's less
camera. That's
crowded
good.
today, and yeah, as you can see, there's so many people. I don't know if you can remark. There's another. If you can see the flag, there's the autochtone flag that wasn't there the other day. I don't know why, but they have put the autochtone Confederation flag.
The which flag? The Confederation flag?
That's kind of weird.
A Confederate flag?
Yeah, that's the purplish flag with the tree at the middle, surrounded by some chains.
Okay, I'm not sure what flag it is you're referring to. I don't understand.
Actually, it's the Iroquois flag.
Oh,
If that
Iroquois
tells you
flag.
something, I can send you a link about it. Actually,
That's okay. We can talk about that later. Just tell us about the size of the crowd, the mood. Describe what's going on there for us tonight in detail.
from what I see, they are probably a little bit more intense than the other day. Also, it's less crowded but more intense. So that's telling. That gives you a lot of intel right there. Also, what can I say? There's a bit of a blend of people. I mean, you can see a lot of different kind of people around. So, yeah, it's kind of crowded and as a blend of different culture, but that's pretty much it.
And has the protest been peaceful? Has there been any clashes there between protesters and police, or protesters and
No, there's no
counter-protesters?
It's probably more, it's as peaceful as it can be, actually. So, yeah, it's kind of peaceful, but it's more intense than the other day. I think they are crying more than the other day.
I see.
Screaming louder.
What activities are they engaged in? What are they doing?
Right now they are chanting the Antifa chants, so that's what it is right now. Do you want me to get a little bit closer?
Yes, let's get the camera and go mobile. Take us around. Just show us what's going on. Just walk through the crowd for us so we can see everything going on. So this is Dragon at McGill University, Montreal. We've seen these protests.
I'm going to go through the organization.
So here it seems to be reasonably peaceful. Chanting. And they're calling for divestment. They want the university to divest from any businesses that are connected to Israel. That's the same demand that is being leveled at other campuses.
I think when we start together, I want to shake this entire campus. So after every verse that I'm going to say, I want you to
And yeah, can you walk right up to whoever is leading the chants or the singing, Dragon?
So that's pretty much it, my friend.
Yeah, can you get up close to the person who's sort of at the front? Walk up to the front of the event. Yeah, get right up close. Right through the crowd. Get up there and show us what's going on. So these protests have been compared to anti-war protests, anti-Vietnam protests in 1968. And they have been called outright within the last day, I've noticed, by some in media, as anti-war protests. I'm not sure I would describe them that way. In fact, I'm certain I wouldn't describe them as anti-war protests. I don't know how you call something an anti-war protest when they are literally calling for a global intifada, which is a jihadist war. Any thoughts on that, Dragon?
Yeah, actually, well, yeah, it is. Well, I would say peaceful as well. The peaceful part is that they, mostly speaking, there's no violence around. Nobody's having fight. So, I mean, there's no violence around.
Right.
Only the chanting and probably the rhetoric behind what they're saying. That is actually the blend of violence or probably the meaning behind it.
So are they blocking access to buildings or to any part of the property there to anyone, Dragon?
That I don't know actually. From what I can tell you, I'm not forbidden to go anywhere. I've not been told not to go anywhere, so probably except behind those barricades, I wouldn't be able to get there because I'm not part of the protest. So that's probably the only exception.
We have seen on some other campuses access to some areas, some buildings has been restricted, but that doesn't appear to be the case tonight at McGill at all. Have you heard anything about the possibility of efforts being made to dismantle this protest, or is it expected to just continue?
Actually, I've been hearing that the SPVM is looking into strategy to do it peacefully and give them probably a deadline, but they are actually looking into the question.
I see. Well, we've seen a deadline of 10 p.m. last night seem to come and go at the University of Toronto. It doesn't look like much happened there. The protests, as far as I know, are continuing at U of T. So that didn't seem to have much impact.
Yeah, well, I would say that our Quebec mayor, or he's probably our Montreal mayor, is kind of lack on this. They are lacking, so they are not making it a big problem around here. So
I see. Well, it seems like everything, though, is peaceful, so that's good. Of course, people have the right to protest. They are technically on university property, which is private property. It's not public property, but it is sort of a semi-public place. So the university really, I think, has the property rights there and can exercise those in terms of asking for trespass to be used as a tool to remove protesters. But so far, they have been peaceful, and it looks like they haven't done anything to prompt university administrators to have them removed from the premises. So that's a positive sign, I would say.
I've been hearing that they have been given the full authorization till they keep it civil and non-violent or anti-Semitic.
Right. So as you said the other night, the university gave them instructions not to post any anti-Semitic, anti-Jewish signs or symbols, and as long as they remain respectful and peaceful, they can stay there to protest, correct?
No, I don't see any sign. If you can see some of the sign around here, because there's a lot of banner around here. If you can read them, there's nothing that is anti-Semitic or would say violent. It's more of, as you can see, it's more like defund the police, Palestine free stuff. That's probably like the most of the banner you can see. So that's cool.
Yeah. So defund the police. Where have we seen that before? These protesters seem to resemble Black Lives Matter and Antifa people in many ways to me.
Well, indeed. Well, some people would argue that Antifa and LBM is in the same line of characters. And by the way, a little something that I haven't told you last night. At some point, I was being looked at before we came online. So the thing is that why I've been not having any interview the other night? That's probably a question to ask ourselves.
Yes, it's something that I've been Well, I did sort of address it on the broadcast the other night. It's because I think some of them don't want their faces shown. And I don't know. Do you have any other thoughts on that? Why do you think they didn't want to talk to you?
Well, I would say that there's probably a bit of fear of being persecuted, or probably being, I don't know, point out as
Identified.
Yeah, identified probably also. So yeah, there's a lot of that.
And possibly identified after the fact. Do you want to maybe try to go up and talk to one or two people and see if it's a different response tonight? I know that in some places they've received a media training to help them deal with people like yourself in a better fashion, in a better way. And some of them have actually designated a go-to media person to speak to someone like yourself.
Yeah, well, it is actually. We're living in I would call a divide time, which I would call that every culture is now blending together, and there's something behind that, I would call.
What about those two young guys right there? Just walk right up and just ask them a question.
Hey, I'm sorry. Can I ask you a few questions? All right. Sorry, I would like to ask you a few questions, if that's okay. Actually. All right. So let's see if I can find someone to check out some questions.
Somebody's got to talk to you. Somebody.
Hey, I'm sorry, guys. Can I ask you a few questions? Oh, all right. Have a good one. Can I ask you a few questions? All right. Well, it's going to be fun. Hey, sorry. Can I ask you a few questions? All right. So, as you can see, I'm still trying. I'm going to try harder. Can I ask you a few questions, sir? All right. Actually, I wanted to ask.
What is that? First, what is this?
This is Maverick News. Actually, that's one of my best friends. He's basically a freedom advocate. So we're advocating for freedom of speech and freedom
Do you
of...
have an ID or something that shows...
I'm not a media per se, but I got some ID if you want to see.
Like the media ID. What is that exactly?
I don't have any
So it's not a media?
ID. Well, I'm a media, actually independent. So we're independent.
What channel does this go to?
This is on YouTube and Rumble. As you can see, Rick Walker is right there.
What's the name of the channel?
Maverick News. Maverick Multimedia. You can see it right here, actually.
Sorry, because not anyone can go around like just take a video, like.
Understandable.
Because it's a bit touchy. Like there is like some people try to sneak in, take information.
Understandable.
Yeah.
No, actually, I'm really thoughtful
So we're not allowing like anyone to go around if they don't have like the media thing or.
Right, because actually I'm independent. So
basically, can you mute that for a moment?
if I can mute this one, well, sure. I mean, can we mute the mic for a moment, or the camera? Actually, the camera could be good. Let's see if I can do that. Right.
I can take him off air, Dragon, so that it won't be live. If you want to have a preliminary discussion with him, I'll take you off now, and I'll be able to hear you when you want to come back. So those guys are off having a private conversation about whether that gentleman would like to say anything and make a statement of any kind, or just be open to having a discussion with Draken about what's going on there tonight. And you have to ask yourself, what kind of future would the country have if it was run by a bunch of people who react that way to people coming up, media people, independent or otherwise, or even mainstream, and not be willing or open to even having a discussion or explaining what it is that you want? What are your demands? Why are you at this protest? They don't want to talk. I've experienced a lot of that in my day. I'm generally pretty persuasive and convincing. I can usually get people to talk, but I know exactly what Dragon is going through there, and it's not an easy thing to get people to open up and have trust in you to speak with you sometimes, right? But some groups are tougher than others. That group, I know exactly what's going on there. And you're getting that reaction because that group of people with that kind of mindset, they are not really about free speech. They'll complain about free speech when their free speech is being curtailed, but when it's the other way around, they restrict access, they freeze out journalists, they only speak to one side, they won't speak to anybody that they think might hold a contrary opinion, or won't just simply regurgitate their message. I know exactly how it works, and I know what he's going through. I know why they don't want to talk. And in some cases, some people are just afraid or camera shy. I get that. And at these kinds of protests as well, they're covering their faces for a reason as well. They don't want to be identified in many cases. Some people might literally be afraid of COVID, so they're wearing their masks for that. But in most cases, if they're wearing masks or coverings over their face and their head so that you can't see them, it's not just some sort of religious statement. It is often the result of them being fearful of being identified because they're engaged in a protest, and for obvious reasons, they don't want to be seen, photographed, no video evidence or record of them ever being there. So I know what Dragon's going through. He's got a tough gig out there right now, just trying to get people to talk to him. You know, I believe in keeping things open. Let's bring Dragon back up. How you doing there, Dragon? Didn't want to talk to you?
No,
Yeah.
it's kind of, like you said, it's uneasy. It's a tough gig, but it's fun. I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
I just want some more.
Well, we are a legitimate media outlet, and I've worked for mainstream media for decades and independently like this as well, and I am able to get media credentials to media events. So you have every right to be there, Dragon, and you have just as much credibility and even more than a lot of the MSMs. So don't you worry about that at all.
Well, thank you, sir. I appreciate. So, well, on that vein, I'm going to try to catch up some people to ask a few questions if I can. Sorry, sir, can I ask you a few questions, actually? I'm a media, so... all right. Have a good night.
I would suggest, Dragon, just walking right up to somebody and saying, why are you here to support these protesters tonight? Just walk up and just ask the question and see what kind of response you get. Just
Good
ask
idea.
the question. If they don't want to respond, they'll tell you they don't want to talk to you. But if you just ask the question outright, you're much more likely to get a response.
That's a good idea. Let's try that. I'm going to go that direction then. Right. Hey, sir, can I ask you just one question real quick? Yeah, sure. Actually, I wanted to ask, why are we protesting today?
Palestine liberation.
Right?
Yeah.
What does it mean? Actually, do we need to have more genocide or have more freedom, or how does it work?
Actually, I don't think I feel like talking that much about it.
All right. Have a good one. So, we're protesting for the freedom of Palestine. So that's the first answer that I got today.
Yeah, so there you go. So that works better. So let's try again. Just walk up and say, why are you here supporting the protesters tonight? And point the camera right at them. And then if they don't want to talk to you, we can just walk away. We'll see how this goes.
Hey, sorry, guys. Can I ask you a real question real quick? Why are we actually protesting today? Actually, yeah, I'm working for a media, but I'm just out of line right now. But I'm just asking a question real quick to get some... All right, thanks. Even if I say that I'm not online, they don't talk. So it's really I would call that a close-minded group, isn't it?
Yeah, they don't like to. They're not very open, and they are not very free with their own speech.
Actually,
So
yeah, it's kind of weird. Freedom of speech and freedom of living are the same in a way.
yes. Well, Dragon, let's just get some final thoughts from you, and we'll kind of wrap this up, and we'll move on to some other news for the day.
Well, my final thought will be brave, guys. Always stick up for your words. And, well, when you can, like me, well, just go ahead with your phone. Have some vision for the Maverick family and show us what it is, right? Show us what the world looks like on your part.
There you go.
So
Okay,
that's the
Dragon,
final word.
these streams get better every time you do them, and we appreciate your efforts. Thanks for bringing us the live feed there from McGill University tonight,
My
sir.
pleasure. Have a good one, guys.
All
Take
right.
care.
Take care. Bye for now. And there you go, folks. Appreciate you guys hanging in there. Good job, Dragon. Gives you kind of the lay of the land at McGill. Hang in there. I'll be right back on the other side. Don't go away.
The information war is raging. Truth without integrity is worth nothing. Maverick News. Because those who have power and those who seek it must be held accountable.
The world is watching.
Join our family of truth seekers. Donate today and add your voice to the chorus of Maverick Knights. Donate at maverickdonations.com. Truth. Integrity. It's the Maverick way. Maverick News. The world is watching.
And I'm back. Thanks for everything, Dragon. Good job. So, tonight as well, we are seeing, just to move on to some other stuff, we might come back to some of this protest stuff. And there's my good friend, Mr. L, saying, I see, okay. Hang on here, let's move on. Okay, so we saw today police arrest 3 Indian nationals in the killing of BC Sikh activist Hardeep Singh Nijjar. This happened out in British Columbia, and was seriously an international incident affecting relations between Canada and India severely. Court documents released show that 28-year-old Karanpreet Singh, 22-year-old Kamalpreet Singh, and 22-year-old Koran Brar are facing 1 count each of first-degree murder and 1 count of conspiracy to commit murder in Nijjar's death. They're all Indian nationals. They were living in Edmonton when they were taken into custody this morning. Investigators say they think that these guys were in Surrey, BC on June 18th of 2023. That's the day that 45-year-old Nijjar was gunned down. In Gurdwara in British Columbia, outside his home. We have Minister Dominic LeBlanc commenting on the arrests into the killing of Hardeep Singh Nijjar. And we also have, I believe, RCMP news conference as well. Here, hang on a second. Let me bring that up and we will go to The RCMP. Here we are. All right, let's let this roll.
MP, who will be available with Superintendent Mooker and I to answer any questions you may have at the conclusions of this press briefing. But first, I would like to congratulate the men and women of IHIT for the outstanding dedication and the results achieved. I would also like to thank the RCMP National Security Program, particularly here in BC, for their unparalleled work ethics and dedication to serve our country on the separate investigative efforts underway. And also thank Surrey Detachment for their continued and seamless collaboration and support. The commitment and skills of these investigators are second to none, and I'm very proud of their work and their accomplishment. Nous sommes ici pour vous informer de progrès importants dans l'enquête sur le meurtre de M. Hardeep Singh Nijjar, qui a eu lieu le 18 juin 2023 à Surrey.
Okay, hang on a second here and we'll get you to English in a moment. Okay, so this is not just a major crime, it's international politics in play. This is a major story for Canada. And I would say even, outside of Canada. So let's go back.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Superintendent Mandeep Mooker, and I'm the officer in charge of the Integrated Homicide Investigation Team. On June 18th, 2023, Hardeep Singh Nijjar was fatally shot and killed as he departed Guru Nanak Sikh Gurdwara in Surrey. Shortly thereafter, IHIT was called into conduct of this investigation. Over the past 10 months, IHIT has led an investigation in partnership with internal and external partners to advance this investigation. Through complex investigative techniques and tremendous support from the community, we were able to gather significant evidence that led us to the individuals that were responsible for this homicide. I'm here today to announce that we arrested and charged 3 individuals for first-degree murder and conspiracy to commit murder in relation to Hardeep Nijjar's homicide. IHIT investigators, along with Edmonton Police Services, and numerous other RCMP resources, took custody of all 3 of these individuals in Edmonton, Alberta. The following 3 individuals were charged for this homicide. 22-year-old Garn Brar, who's an Indian national, who is residing in Edmonton, Alberta. 22-year-old Kamalpreet Singh, who was an Indian national, who was also residing in Edmonton, Alberta. 28-year-old Garnpreet Singh, who is also an Indian national, residing in Edmonton, Alberta. We will be disseminating photos of these accused men in hopes of any information in relation to their presence in Surrey during the time of the offense. This investigation does not end here. We are aware that others may have played a role in this homicide, and we remain dedicated to finding and arresting each one of these individuals. At this time, I want to take a moment to recognize and thank CFSUBC, Edmonton Police Service, and Surrey RCMP Detachment for their unwavering dedication from the onset of this investigation. I would also like to thank the Nijjar family, the citizens of Surrey, and the Guru Nanak Sikh Gurdwara Executive for their patience and understanding. We understand that the community is going to have a lot of questions. However, at this time, as this process is going through the court process, we may not be able to answer all the questions. In closing, I would like to say how proud I am of the IHIT investigative team, along with the investigative support unit, for their dedication and determination, and to continue this file to find out everyone that was responsible for the murder of Hardeep Nijjar. I'd like to pass on now to Assistant Commissioner Edwards.
Thank you. Good afternoon to everyone that is here. My comments will be brief. The murder of Mr. Niger at the Scott Road Gurdwara was outrageous and it was reprehensible. It had a profound impact on the residents of Surrey. And notwithstanding today the announcing of charges, those scars will remain in our community for some time. However, I want to share this, that from day one, this community came forward to work with and alongside the police in advancing this investigation. Critically important was the executive of the Scott Road Gurdwara, whom I met on July 19th, 2023, approximately 1 month after the murder of Mr. Niger. Despite their intense grief and pain, those representatives of our community, they provided their support, their patience, and their trust in the police to move this forward. Investigations in Canada are complex, and they're very, very onerous, and they take time. As such, the support from those individuals and the community at large was essential in getting it to where we are today. So the message that I want to end with is this. Our community is extremely strong. It won't be intimidated, and this community will work with the police and alongside the police to hold offenders accountable. We would not be here today if that wasn't the case. Thank you.
I'll now open up to a question and answer period. Before we take the first question, we'll just have some ground rules. Please state your name and who you'd like to direct your question to. If you'd like to ask your question in Punjabi, what we'll do is have Corporal Sangha come up, repeat the question in English to whoever it's addressed to, and then she can translate the answer back into Punjabi. So we can start with whoever's first here. Yes, if you like.
Superintendent Luca, you were just mentioning pictures coming out and you want some more assistance from the community. Can you expand on exactly what you're looking for now?
So anyone that had contact with these individuals during the time of the offense, which would be in June 2023 in the Surrey area, if you have any interaction with them or you observed them, we're asking that you call the IHIT tip line and relate that information to us in the hopes of building a timeline.
You know, there are some sources that are reporting that these suspects are also linked to other murders, including that of an 11-year-old. Can you speak to that? Is there anything that you can provide us?
Unfortunately, those are different investigations that we are not currently a part of. However, we are coordinating with all agencies throughout Canada on a whole different investigations right now, but I can't speak to their investigation, unfortunately.
I also want to ask you, of course, there was a lot of public outrage about this death when Mr. Justin Trudeau linked it to foreign interference. Is there any link between these suspects and the government of India? What can you say about that?
So we are investigating if there are any ties to the government of India. However, as I said, it's an ongoing investigation, and I don't have any information to provide on that matter at this time.
What's the immigration status of these individuals?
Currently, all three individuals are non-permanent residents in Canada. However, I can't speak to their specific immigration status.
Can you detail how the Games by RCMP was involved? What role they played?
They provided members and support throughout our investigation, along with intelligence.
And why were the information sheets sworn in Spruce Grove?
I would have to get back to you on that piece.
Are you looking for more suspects?
Currently, we believe that there may be others involved, and therefore there may be potential arrests or charges for others as well.
And would they be in Alberta as well or anywhere?
I can't speak to that. So we have been liaising with international partners, and we have collaborated with them on this investigation. I can't speak to exactly who.
Were the 3 men arrested? Were they known to the police before?
They were not known to the police.
Have you been getting much cooperation from India?
I can't speak to that piece, but maybe Assistant Commissioner Tabul can.
So I could tell you that the federal policing program has collaborated and communicated with partner agencies in India, and that collaboration and communication continues to this day.
How would you characterize that collaboration? Giving you everything you need? Is it?
I'll be frank, I'll characterize that collaboration as rather challenging and difficult for the last several years. However, the RCMP is very committed to continuing to establish a working relationship from a law enforcement to law enforcement agency. So we're going to continue our efforts, but it's been difficult.
Sir, you said it dated back how many years?
Several years.
Can you pinpoint when that started?
Oh, well, listen, over the last, I'm talking in my tenure in federal policing, it's been several years. I would argue the last 6-7 years. Absolument, monsieur. Nos relations entre la GRC et les agences indiennes. Oui, notre collaboration avec les agences d'application de la loi indienne ont commencé, je dirais, il y a 6 ou 7 ans, durant ma présence, évidemment, à la police fédérale. Je peux caractériser...
So we'll just pause from that for a moment and come back. So, you know, there was talk from the government that it was the government of India that was partly involved, or maybe directly involved, in this killing, coming from the Prime Minister's office at the time.
Again, I won't be able to speak to their immigration status, but they have been here between 3 to 5 years. Altogether, 3 to 5 years.
Just you mentioned that there's still some more people that you may be arresting and charging at a future date. What would you say to the community that might be a little bit alarmed with that idea?
What I would say is there's always the potential on these type of investigations because of how complex it is. That's why these individuals were charged with the conspiracy to commit murder. So there may be others involved. We don't ever want to say that the investigation has stopped. However, we have been partnering with all of our partner agencies to make sure that the community is safe.
And how should we think about these individuals? Are they guns for hire? Is that sort of what we should be picturing in our mind?
I think that would be, what we would want to say is throughout the court process, the evidence will show the roles that these individuals played. Then I would suggest that the community would be able to really understand the roles of what these people actually did. So I would let the evidence speak to what their assumptions for these individuals would be once they go through the court process.
They were arrested negligently.
Correct. Yeah.
Are you able to say whether these 3 men at the time of the arrest were together or were they arrested separately?
Arrested separately.
Were American agencies involved at all, and is there an access to their investigation for those charges last year?
That's good.
Can I answer that? Superintendent Mooker earlier made reference to our collaboration with partners, both domestic and foreign, and I can confirm that we've had constant, and we continue to have constant collaboration with agencies, again, both domestic and international, and that includes agencies in the United States.
Is there an access with their investigation and the charges that happened last year?
You're referring, I'm assuming, about the Mr. Pernoon, the indictment. I can't comment really any further on that and their indictment or the ongoing investigations that we have. However, they are mutual. Of these investigations are of mutual interest.
And how are these arrests connected to the Edmonton shooting deaths of our 3 couple and his 11-year-old son, Maverick? And that's a question for Commissioner Tabul, because we've already had it.
So sorry, go again with your questions. The connections to?
Yeah, how are today's arrests connected to the Edmonton shooting deaths of our three couple and his 11-year-old son, Maverick?
So thank you for the question. Great question. I can't comment again, as Superintendent Mooker stated earlier, on another agency's active investigation. What I could tell you is within the federal policing program, a coordination team was born, specifically out of the RCMP here in BC, to support and collaborate with all the other domestic agencies that have a variety of investigations underway currently. So I will not comment on that specific investigation, except to tell you that we are very aggressively collaborating with all our partner agencies across the country.
And when will these three suspects, if they were arrested in Edmonton, when will they be brought back to BC for court date?
So they will be required to be here by Monday morning.
Can you unpack which partner agencies or units within the RCMP you worked with? Was INSET involved? Which divisions were involved?
There was numerous partner agencies, so it's internally and externally that were involved. INSET was one of them, definitely, but we had a whole collaboration of agencies and units that we worked with. The list would go on and on.
Which provinces?
I would say at least 3 or 4 provinces. I'm not going to speak to exactly what provinces because we do have ongoing investigations currently.
Say anything more about the potential suspects and arrests? Are they definitely still in Canada? How many people is it?
Again, when it comes to ongoing investigations, I will not speak to that. Just to jeopardize any of those investigations, I can't speak to that at this time.
The allegations are that agents of the Indian government orchestrated Mr. Nidro's killing. So what links do these 3 co-accused have to the Indian government?
So right now, we're investigating their ties, if any, to the Indian government. However, that's part of our ongoing investigation.
Can you confirm what date the men were arrested and provide more details about the circumstances under which they were arrested?
They were arrested this morning, all in Edmonton, and at differing times. I don't have those times.
Were they at home when they were arrested?
From my information, 2 of the individuals were at home, 1 was not.
Given the location of the conspiracy offense, it's safe to say you're alleging they planned the murder here from Edmonton?
Again, that would be part of the evidence, and I won't speak to that at this time.
It's in the charge sheet.
The conspiracy could be either planned here or in Edmonton. It could be either or. The evidence is going to show what the timeline of that conspiracy and when it occurred.
Were they members of the Temple of Guevara here or in Edmonton or anywhere else?
I don't have that information.
So besides
What was the circumstance today? Did they resist arrest? Did they cooperate?
The 3 men were taken in custody without any issues or concerns.
Would you be releasing their last name or their alias names or previous names?
We're going to be releasing their legal names.
Besides releasing Richard, there has been threat to other Sikh activists as well. So do these suspects have any link to them? Have they made any collaboration, any evidence?
What I can say is that we are investigating the murder of Hardeep Nijjar, and that's what I can speak to at this point, not any other investigations or any other threats.
You kind of spoke to it before about the Sikh community, but there was a time when Indians were not flying to India because of fear of safety, and this is a prominent activist. People are afraid to speak up, and they're afraid to speak their opinion. What can you say to this Sikh community on that note and ensure that they are safe?
Yeah, what I can say is that we would not be at this point without the bravery and courage of the Sikh community coming forward for Hardeep Nijjar's murder investigation. They were brave and courageous to come forward, and I believe that they would continue to do that for future investigations as well.
Yeah, I have a question. So there have been rumors that these 3 arrested people might have connection with the Lawrence missionary camp, which is from India. So do you think that's
I'll turn it over to Assistant Commissioner.
So, again, I mentioned this earlier, and it speaks to several of your questions. There are several ongoing investigations currently in a lot of the matters that you are curious about. Of course, there are active investigations. For the integrity of these investigations, we will not comment any further about the nature of the offenses under investigation or who's under investigation. And to your earlier questions, there's collaboration through a variety of units. Remember, the federal policing program and the RCMP is a broad, nationwide organization. And within federal policing alone, there's also several programs that are involved. They're taking conduct of the investigations underway.
Has the Indian consulate have they contacted the requested information regarding the citizen?
So has the Indian consul...
Have they requested information regarding the people that have been arrested?
I will not comment on any communication with consular officials or these things. No.
Can I ask about...
Kim?
Can I ask about the start of the conspiracy? According to the CSO entry, it was May 1st of 2023. Could it have gone back earlier? Are these people potentially sleeper agents that have been in the country for a number of years?
So, great question. Thank you. We're not at liberty to answer that specific question, of course, because they are a matter. It is a great question, but it is a matter very much at the center of evidence and ongoing investigations. D'accord. Do you have just a list? I'll translate the list of names. Monsieur Karen Bohar, 22 ans, citoyen de l'Inde, qui résidait à Edmonton, en Alberta. Monsieur Kamalpreet Singh, aussi également 22 ans et également un citoyen indien et résident de l'Alberta, d'Edmonton particulièrement.
Okay, so we'll pull out of this. In case you're not cluing in or are not familiar with the background on the story, the victim, the murder victim, was living in Canada. As I understand it, part of the Sikh separatist movement, Palestine separatist movement over in India. The Indian government wants some of these guys living in Canada under the protection of Canadian law shipped back to India to stand or to be charged with crimes related to terrorism in some cases. This person who was killed out in BC sort of linked to all of that, and the accusations were that whoever killed him may be linked to the government of India. So that set off a firestorm because some of this information came directly from Trudeau's office, and it damaged relations between Canada and India. So now, many months later, you're finally seeing arrests, charges laid here in Canada, which hopefully will restore relations, improve relations between Canada and India. We're talking about collaboration possibly between India and Canada, the intelligence agencies and the government there with the authorities here in Canada. We're not really getting, it's very difficult to understand what they're talking about in that news conference because they're beating around the bush now in the information that they're providing to you in this news conference. And if you don't have that backstory from before, you don't really understand the significance of what's happened here. The arrests now indicate that police had more evidence provided by people from the Sikh community, and that has led to the detention of these suspects, and we're going to get a trial now. What is the evidence? What is the motivation? Police won't say now because they have two active, or well, yeah, more than one active criminal case before them, so they can't really speak to the evidence publicly at this point for risk of prejudicing a jury, possibly undermining other investigative work that might take place. So it's inappropriate for them to say too much, release too much evidence, and comment on this stuff. So really all you're getting here is the acknowledgement that these individuals have been arrested. They name them. They give you some basic facts surrounding how they were arrested, but you're not going to get comment on too much of the evidence here because it can potentially jeopardize the success of prosecution. And it can make it very difficult even to select a jury, go through the jury selection process in a fair and even manner. So the courts, you have to be very careful in the way that you deal with that, because that information broadcast out in media, when you're trying to find an impartial jury, if when questioned during the jury selection process, if anyone in that selection process is asked, have you seen coverage of this story? And then they're asked questions to see if maybe their view on it has been prejudiced or skewed in some way, then they would be dismissed as a juror. So it can be difficult to find people in a community who are impartial if they've been exposed to too much media information, because, as you know, there's a slant to media news coverage regardless of where it comes from. So if you're watching a lot of TV news and you have people on there opining on it, just even people on the street or people from the community expressing their views, or you get even newscasters or reporters providing what's supposed to be unbiased information but actually injecting some opinion into it, it can prejudice a jury because they're getting not just information delivered by the two sides in the courtroom. They've already come in there with preconceived notions about whatever the court case is and what the evidence is based on media reports, which may or may not be accurate. In fact, some of the information may be completely false. That's why police are being so careful with what they're doing with this case in particular. And so they should. This one is very important. This affects, as I say, the relationship between Canada and India, the relationship between Trudeau and the leaders in India as well. So we'll see where this goes, man. Now, I saw comments from someone in the chat regarding media credentials for it suggests, I think that person was suggesting that we're not really a media outlet. Well, I'll explain how it works for that person and all those of you who are wondering, because Dragon was asked during that exchange with that gentleman out there at McGill where his media credentials are. Here's how it works. In Canada, and in the United States as well, just in a similar fashion, but I'll speak to Canada because I'm Canadian and I'm very familiar with the way media credentials work. Media, even mainstream media, they have no special rights. Anyone can be a journalist. You can be a journalist. You can be a citizen journalist. You can write a book, make a movie, a documentary. You can just live stream. Anybody can do it. Everybody has the right to go out onto the street and shoot video with a phone in a public place or with a camera. You're free to do that. You can practice street journalism. Anybody is allowed to do that. You don't need special credentials. You don't need anything special to go out into public and practice journalism. You can sit in your bedroom and tap away at a keyboard and write an article and post it online. There's nothing to stop you from doing that because we have free speech in this country. So anyone can do it. There's no special privilege for media. Now, if you're doing it on a regular basis and you have an organization set up, then certainly you have more credibility, as we do. And certainly when I was working in mainstream media for in excess of 25 years, just in television alone, not counting all my years in radio and print, when you're working for like a radio station or a television station, they're licensed but it's only their broadcasting license that they have. There's actually no specific media license or credential that you have to go out and conduct your to engage in your craft of journalism. Now, that being said, when I was at some of these outlets, we certainly did have media passes. They were just IDs that you make up. The company makes them up. And I make them up here for people when they go out and represent our organization. So if you're out there formally working for us, then yes, I will, at times issue a media pass. There are some exceptions to this as well. If there is a special event going on private property, or if there's a government event of some kind, like when the Queen came to Canada, and I had to cover, this is an example. So when the Queen came to Canada, I had to go through security clearances with the RCMP and the government to make sure that I wasn't a crazy person that posed any kind of a threat, because I was going to be with the procession. I was going to be there and moving in among the dignitaries and all of the newsmakers of the day, and I'd be there also with police who were providing security for the Queen. And they give you media pass so that they know who you are, but you're pre-cleared, they know, because they have tight security. Now, that being said, anybody else from the public can still be there and, shoot things, but if you have that pass from police or the authorities, you can then get into areas where the general public can't go. So yes, you do get in behind police lines. If you work with police on a regular basis and they know who you are and you build a relationship with a police organization, then yeah, sometimes you'll show up at a crime scene and they so often with me would escort me past the police lines and get into an area in an area where you're not going to potentially disturb evidence or cause any kind of a problem. So they would escort you in because you would have a good relationship with the officers, and they would tell you you can go over there, and I was always thankful for those kinds of opportunities because they saw you as a credible media person. And because you do have an audience, a following, if you will, like you guys, then you're not there just for yourself. You are the eyes and the ears of the public. And that is what a media person is. But you don't really have any special privileges. If you venture onto private property, you can shoot video up until the point when you're asked to stop shooting. And then you have to leave. And if you don't leave, then you can be charged with trespassing. And it doesn't matter if you have a media pass or you don't. No special privileges. If you go to an event, and I go to a lot of automotive events, for instance, those are held in convention centers. And when you go in, if you are going to be shooting video for use, for media purposes, often they will let you in for a media preview day, and you can apply for credentials, and they will give you credentials so that you can get in to do those kinds of events. When the general public can't be there, they give you special access, and you get a pass. It's all controlled. And they will ask you for examples of your work, for your website, what organization you represent, and if they deem you to be legitimate, then they will let you in. And it wasn't so long ago that anyone with a live stream wasn't considered legitimate by a lot of big events. Political, business, industry-oriented, community-oriented things included. What Dragon was doing there was entirely appropriate. He's in a semi-public place, which is a university setting, on university grounds, which are grounds that are controlled by the university. So that's technically private property, but the university is allowing this protest to take place. It's a common area where the public is allowed to go. He's not trespassing. He has as much right to be there as anybody else. and he has as much right to shoot live video as anyone else. And he was being very respectful and professional about going up and respecting people if they did not want to be videoed or shown on camera, which is the appropriate and proper way to do it. And if someone says, no, I don't want to, then you just say thank you and you walk away. You try not to inject yourself into the story. You stay back a distance. You do walk up to the front of things, but you try not to influence what is going on if you're practicing proper journalism. You don't become part of the story. You are there to document the story and share the information with the public. That's the way it works. So yes, Dragon will be receiving from me a Maverick News media identification. It doesn't mean that it gives him necessarily special access to anything. But when someone is asking who he is, he can then show that to someone to say that, yes, I am I'm legitimately attached to this organization and I represent this news organization, which honestly means that he represents me, this company, this news operation, and he's there for you, to serve you, as I am every night sitting in this chair. I'm here to serve you. Dragon tonight was he was the eyes and ears of the public. He was there for you, and he was acting entirely appropriately. That's the way it basically works. That's what a media pass is. It's not a pass at all. If you get a media pass, it's a privilege to get into an event without having to pay admission. And the reason one of the reasons they do that is because they know that media people have to go to a lot of events, often events that you don't even want to be at, but you're there acting in an official capacity. So they don't charge you admission to go to an event, but you get to go in, shoot the video. It's advantageous usually for these political rallies or community events or automotive shows, a car show. They let you in. They don't charge you. They get publicity out of it if that's what they want, and you get to cover the event and serve the public that way without being charged a fee. That's what the media pass is. But it doesn't really give you any special privileges. And I can go on too and talk another time about what happens to your video and what protections there are. If police come and they want to confiscate or they demand to see your notes or your video recordings, or if they want to confiscate your hard drives off your computer, and what it takes to protect sources as well. There's a lot to know about how to conduct yourself, what your rights are as a journalist, how far you can go, who you represent, what the ethics are surrounding all of that. So don't think that if, just because there's no such thing as a media pass that just gets you into everything. It's not true. We're just people too. And even if they show up from the CBC, Global, CTV, ABC, NBC, CBS, Fox News, or whatever, they don't really have any special rights to shoot anything, anywhere, at any time, unless they're given special access. I hope that explains things, because I saw somebody in there making a bunch of comments who honestly didn't really know what he was talking about. And it's entirely inappropriate, by the way, for someone to say go to an event or go someplace and say that they represent this organization without checking with me first. And that has happened from time to time. But if you're going to go someplace and say that you represent me and this news organization, you should say, hey, I'm going to go here. Is that okay with you? And I'll tell you something else. We do not organize protests at this operation. And some people have associated us with protests in the past. More than one person has done that. We don't organize protests. We cover protests. We're not political activists per se here. We're not. I may comment and editorialize on stories, but we do not organize political rallies. We do not organize protests. That is not our job. And anyone that comes around telling you otherwise, that if anybody out there ever has anybody show up and say that Maverick News endorsed or organized this protest or anything of the sort, not true. We do not do that. I have never organized protests like that under the banner or of this company or certainly this news operation. Nor will I ever do that. Not a protest. So there's a lot to know, and proper behavior. Some etiquette. Goes a long way. Dragon, good job tonight, sir. I appreciate your efforts as always. I'll be right back.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, Maverick News. Defending free speech, free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
I'm back, and foreign interference into Canadian elections, foreign meddling. So the public inquiry investigating foreign interference has come up with this. Says attempts by other countries to meddle in Canada's past two elections are a stain on this country's electoral system. However, the commissioner, Marie-Josée Hogue, said today, after releasing her first report on foreign interference into the 2019 and 2021 elections, that the systems, our system, our electoral system, remains sound, she said today. She says that ultimately it did not affect the outcome of the last two elections, but that is not to say there wasn't foreign meddling, and that there isn't also foreign meddling in our political activities overall in this country coming from countries like China. In fact, there's a lot of evidence to suggest that. A lot of it came out during the inquiry, a lot of information that runs contrary to what we were hearing from the Prime Minister's office. I have the commissioner queued up. Here she is talking about this today.
An interpreting team whose hard work enables the public to follow the Commission's work in either official language. My team and I read and analyzed a large number of documents, many of them highly classified. The Commission had access to the documents it deemed relevant without any redaction for national security reasons. I can therefore say that our team was able to conduct our investigative work without limiting access to classified information. La Commission a eu accès aux documents qu'elle jugeait pertinents sans qu'ils ne soient caviardés pour des raisons de sécurité nationale. Je peux donc dire que notre
So we're
équipe
also
a
seeing
effectué
tonight
son
that
travail d'enquête sans que son accès à l'information
some of the
classifiée soit
members of
limité.
parliament who were affected by foreign
As
interference
you will know, since
had
I have
something to say
said
about
it
it
many
tonight.
times before, the Commission had to face the immense challenge of balancing the protection of Canada's national security interest with the transparency of its work. I strongly believe we have been successful in striking this balance. Despite extreme time constraints, the Commission found ways to make a substantial amount of information and documents available to the public, enabling citizens to come to know and understand what happened during the last 2 elections. Nevertheless, certain facts cannot be publicly disclosed for national security reasons. The report, therefore, includes a classified supplement which, in accordance with the law and the Commission's term of reference, is only available to those with the requisite security clearance and who also have a need to know stemming from the performance of their duties. To maximize transparency, I have disclosed as much information as possible in the public report itself, while limiting the information contained in the classified supplement only to what is strictly necessary. This classified information in no way alters the main finding of the report. On the contrary, it reinforces some of those findings. It's important to highlight that the initial report's findings are not necessarily definitive. The Commission will soon begin the second stage of its work, and it is possible that this stage will shed further light or even a different light on some of the events investigated and reported in the first stage. Indeed, the manner in which information about foreign interference was circulated and what measures the government took in response are 2 issues central to the second stage of our work, which focuses on the government's ability to detect, prevent, and counter foreign interference. Alors, il est important de souligner que...
Okay, so that's the commissioner. So maybe didn't affect the outcome of the election fully in the end, or so they say, but it's still a big issue. And that is why today conservatives Michael Chong and Luc Berthold had a bit of a different take on all of this, because we know that in at least 1 or 2 ridings, there's been talk that maybe the influence from outside has been greater or more pronounced than we're hearing even from the commissioner today.
Good afternoon, I should say. Commissioner Hoag's first report comes to conclusions and findings that are starkly different from what the Trudeau government has told us over the last 18 months, and conclusions and findings that are different from the report of Mr. Johnston of a year ago. She concluded that interference occurred in the last 2 general elections. And while this interference did not have an impact on which party came to power, it could have had an impact on the results at the riding level. And she concluded that it impacted the broader electoral system, that it undermined public confidence in Canadian democracy, and that it disproportionately targeted and negatively affected diaspora communities, particularly the Chinese community. Commissioner Hoag specifically concluded with respect to Mr. Dong's nomination in Don Valley North that the suspicion that Beijing interfered in Mr. Dong's nomination was well-grounded, and that this is significant because it could have determined the candidate who was elected to Parliament. She also concluded that Mr. Trudeau told her that he did not veto Mr. Dong's nomination because it would have direct electoral consequences, because the Liberal Party was expected to win Don Valley North, and she questioned why the Prime Minister did not take action as he said he was going to do after the election. With respect to Mr. Chu's election in Steveston, Richmond East, she concluded that there were strong indications of the PRC's involvement and that there is a reasonable possibility that the narratives could have impacted the results in this riding. And so this report is a damning set of conclusions and findings in the first phase of this inquiry about what the Trudeau government has indicated over the last 18 months and contradicts much of what the government has told us over that period of time. We look forward to her continuing her work in the second phase of this inquiry. And now I'll pass along the podium to my Francophone colleague.
Merci beaucoup, Michael.
For all of you. Mr. Trudeau indicated that that this did not affect the election results at the riding level, and Justice Ho concluded that while it's impossible to prove this because we have a secret ballot in Canada, that it did impact, in her language, the broader electoral system. It undermined public confidence, disproportionately targeted diaspora communities, and that it one could reasonably conclude that it could have had an impact at the riding level. That's very different than what the Prime Minister had been indicating to us over the last 18 months. In addition, when it came to the intelligence that the government was provided with respect to the nomination in Don Valley North, where the intelligence indicated that the PRC was coercing international students into voting under threat to having their visas revoked and their families targeted back home, and corruptly interfering in that nomination by providing through proxy agents fraudulent addresses. The Prime Minister indicated that the intelligence, in his view, was not actionable. The Justice Hogue, however, concluded that the suspicion that the PRC interfered in that nomination was well grounded, and that it is significant because it could have impacted which candidate, which individual was elected in Don Valley North. So those are just two examples of the stark contrast between not only Mr. Johnson's report of last year, but what the government has been telling Canadians in Parliament over the last 18 months.
Le rapport de la commissaire...
Il y a des nuances, mais ce n'est pas une grande contradiction, c'est juste des nuances. Là.
Je pense que le premier ministre a été très clair en disant que l'ingérence étrangère n'avait pas eu d'effet sur les résultats généraux des élections, ni sur aucune circonscription. Et la juge Hogg a conclu aujourd'hui qu'elle avait des raisons de croire, bien fondées, qu'effectivement l'ingérence étrangère avait pu jouer un rôle dans l'élection, dans la circonscription de M. Kenichiu. Elle dit qu'elle ne peut pas confirmer hors de tout doute parce que le vote est secret, on en est bien conscient, mais elle dit qu'il est possible que l'ingérence étrangère ait pu avoir un résultat.
Sorry about that, I am back. So we're going to leave the story there. But as you can see, this is not over. There's going to be another section of this report, or a second report coming on this as well from the Commissioner. And we'll see if anything changes heading into the next general election in Canada. We'll see if anything changes at all. I don't know. Big concerns, foreign interference now. Also tonight, out of... Well, I'm going to show you this first. You know, this is difficult for me to decide if I should even show it. This is another heavy ethical issue. Should I show video of a Koran being burned? I'm gonna involve you guys because this is an interactive medium. So this is in Sweden, in Malmo. We just, was it last night or the night before, had Pelle Nerith Taylor, journalist, on from Sweden, talking about a variety of things, including this upcoming Eurovision music festival, which, happens next week. Huge festival in Malmo, where they now have, because of immigration over a number of years, a really large Muslim population. And that has resulted in a lot of conflict. We've seen over the past couple of years incidents where Korans have been burned in that town. And that has infuriated many in the Muslim community. And I received video here today of that happening again. Someone in a robe with a giant Christian cross setting a Koran on fire. I really wrestled with this one because a lot of people view this to be very offensive. I'm not in favor of book burnings, period, let alone religious books. But of course, some people see this as, through a different lens. And with this music festival coming up within the next week, there's been concern that there might be terrorist attacks there. Israel issuing a travel advisory for people saying don't go to Malmo because they have credible information that there could be some sort of terror attack, that Jewish people in particular could be assaulted. So they're advising their citizens to stay away from Malmo, Sweden altogether. The festival organizers say they are prepared to start taking down anything that appears to be anti-Semitic and possibly even Palestinian flags. And yet the event itself, over the years, since its creation, has become very politicized, I would say. It's very woke in many respects. I haven't been there, obviously. I haven't been to Sweden in my lifetime. But from everything I know about that festival, it has become sort of an exhibition of wokeness. And now this possibility of terror, or a number of groups saying boycott the event. We've seen Queers for Palestine issue a media release. And they've got a public campaign ongoing asking people not to attend. And now a Koran burning just ahead of it. Do you guys want to see it? Do you think it's appropriate to run it? Or not? Yeah, and I mean, it's the same thing. If, here's... Seize the Day says, dang, it's a book Christians themselves were burned. Well, that is true. But would we show a Christian being burned? Isn't that interesting, in this time of even self-immolation, people setting themselves on fire to offer themselves as martyrs for the Palestinian movement? And Joe says, what do you think? They did not burn the Bible? Wake up. I know, and I would wrestle with even that, showing a Bible being burned, and yet I have shown churches being burned. But do you think it's appropriate to show this? And, I have to admit that as I contemplated this, I was thinking about potential backlash. What kind of reaction might I get? Would this create some sort of a threat against myself, this organization, anybody associated with it? Would this put anyone here at risk? Would someone maybe with a radical mindset, a radical Islamic mindset or ideology take such offense to us running this video tonight that they might target the news organization, even though we're not the ones who set the Koran on fire, just by showing it? I'm wondering if there is any kind of a risk in that way. And that has a chilling effect on the way we cover things, doesn't it? And then we end up self-censoring. Seize the Day says, yes, it's news. And Joe says, better not do it, Rick. Bond says he's sick and tired of this BS. Magic Moon says no news is good news. Frank Anderson says I am afraid in Sweden. I don't know. Do you live in Sweden, Frank? Is that what you mean? Some people there obviously are. Bond says freedom, yeah. And Bond says why not? Well, I just explained why. So I just want your take on it. Robert says this crap is out our front door. Well, there's truth in that, isn't there? We're seeing it on campuses even as we speak. And people who don't understand that, they're the ones who need to wake up, because it's right there in our face. And Dragon says, I think me stepping up to report is primordial. Joe Butler says, stay safe, Rick. It's something to consider, isn't it? I'm always thinking about safety, not just for me, but for everybody connected to this place, you know? Let me just check the Rumble chat. What do you guys think over there? You know, I find it very distasteful, honestly. I believe in free speech, and that means not assaulting someone else's free speech and burning somebody else's ideas. I think you can challenge them. I don't think you have to set it on fire, but it has been done, and given the circumstances, it is news. But how far do you go with the coverage? Do you actually show it? There are many examples online of, you know, people burning the Koran, photographs. I think there is video out there as well. It's not illegal to do it. The Swedish government, in fact, was challenged on this a couple of years ago because they started to see these incidents take place. It's like a flag burning, only it's religious based, right? So the Swedish government treats this as freedom of expression, and as a result they've refused to ban it in any way. So they do allow people to burn the Koran, and yes, it is legal to burn the Koran here, or the Bible if you want to, as long as it's yours. If it's your property, you can do it. Same thing with burning the American flag or the Canadian flag. What else am I seeing? Raising Will says, come on, Rick, just show it. Shaunavision says, the Liberals repelled Canada's old blasphemy laws, so showing it ought not be blasphemous. Yeah, I mean, that's what it is, right? And I think it was in the 70s that Sweden got rid of their blasphemy laws, opening the door to things like this. Thank you for the donation there, Emerald. I appreciate that very much. Can't show that on the main screens. That coming in through the Rumble rants over there on Rumble. Really appreciate that very much. Raising Wolves is, oh, for blank sakes, show it. Linda08 says, I think it's Linda08 says that all news is important. Is it news, Rosie? Yes, it is news. Yeah, Linda says all news is important. Stoic Teacher says, in UK, teacher in hiding 2 years after death threats over showing cartoon of Prophet Muhammad. Yes, and that is one of the things that has been in the back of my mind. You know, we've seen, look what happened to Salman Rushdie. Even Ezra Levant for publishing images of the Prophet Muhammad. And that stuff can get you into a lot of trouble with certain people of Islamic faith. Rosie says, would we show them burning a Bible? I would be less hesitant to show that, simply because I don't think the Christians are going to come and get violent with me. Linda says, this is different in a satanical way. Yeah, so this is sensitive. I don't know. I'll tell you this, if I do run it here in a moment, I will warn everyone that if we're going to run it, it's just issue the warning. Viewer discretion advised. It may be offensive to some people just to see it. But I didn't do it. We're just reporting on it. And the video is out there. Choosy says, better get your Maverick press pass and come on down. I don't know if he's talking to me or somebody else. Choosy. Is there a protest at the Statue of Liberty? Probably an hour and a half to Statue of Liberty neighborhood. Yeah, okay. It says here, all the media showing is controlled by CCP. And don't worry, your Maverick Knight promises to be chivalrous. Thank you, Choosy. Okay. Do we show it or not? Man. Yeah, DAA 1980 says, see, Rick, we are scared in our own country. BS. Yeah, I admit. I'm worried about it. Raisin Wolf says, stop being scared, Rick. And Stoic Teacher, whose opinion I value highly, actually, says, I would still read aloud what the author wrote. As a journalist, you have the same right to show a news item. I don't know. That's it. We should have, not to ask, Rick, he says. That's how crazy things are now. Yeah, we shouldn't have to. And Thog71 says, it calls for death, therefore should be considered a death threat, not free speech or a simple religious text. Indeed, these are different points of view on it. Okay, well, I do believe in freedom of media, freedom of speech, so I guess we're going to run it. And we'll see what happens. And I don't do this out of disrespect. I do it because I believe people have a right to see it. And I think that it serves the public interest to run it. And in fact, I would say in this case, it doesn't necessarily make the Palestinian cause look bad. It may raise emotions, but overall I would say this doesn't help the Christian perspective or even the freedom perspective on it. This is what happened. Now, I'm told this was from today. The problem with all of this stuff, though, is there's no way for me to know exactly when this was shot. The information is it was today, or at least within the last 24 hours. So I'm showing it to you based on that. But for all I know, I could be duped. This could be from 2 years ago. It could be shot anywhere. It's a generic background. Now, I believe with a high degree of certainty that this is authentic and that it did happen today in Sweden. I believe it. The believing is not proof. I just preface what you're about to see with that. And there's so much stuff out there these days, it's hard to know what is accurate. That being said, I will also give you context to tell you that this has been something that has happened in Malmo multiple times, many times, over the past at least 3 years. And it is growing in frequency because of the immigration issue and changing demographics and friction between different communities there, specifically the Muslims, the Islamists, and the Christians, the Christian community. You know what I'm talking about. Okay, here it is. And again, if this is going to offend you. You've been forewarned. There it is right there. Nothing more inflammatory than politics and religion. You mix them together, man, and you've got something powerful. That's what we're seeing right now. You know, people are like confused about what is happening. They really are. But it's not that difficult once you kind of understand what fascism is. What is fascism? Fascism is the bundling of sticks. It's combining things. Fascists bringing things together into unity. And it comes in various forms. You can have corporate fascism, the marriage of the state with corporations, big business. That's corporatocracy. You can have ethnic or ethno-fascism, the marriage of the state with certain ethnicities, giving preference to certain ethnic groups, white people, for instance, or you could have preference for minority groups, combining the power of the state with an ethnic group, marginalizing, as the Nazis did in World War II, and scapegoating the Jews. Not combining with them, but combining with the other ethnic groups in their country, creating a combination of both corporate fascism and ethno-fascism. You can have religious components layered on top of that as well. Or separately, you could have the state and religion, like, say, Islam and the state coming together to create a state that is predicated, its laws and all of its rights are predicated on Islamic ideology and religion. And the laws come from the Koran, Sharia law. That's a religious kind of fascism. Now, what happens if you take, and you could have even identity or sexual oriented issues, gender issues, gender fascism, feminism. You add that to the power of the state. That's another stick that can be added to the bundle. Now, you take all of those things. You take ethnicity, you take the power of corporations, you take religion. You start taking all of those things, you bundle them all together into a bundle of sticks. It's powerful and dangerous. You bundle all those things together, you get like a powder keg. Oh, it's strong. But when you start bringing things together and you put all of that under the control of the state, you get unintended consequences for sure. And we've never seen in human history the bundling of all those things together in quite that way on a grand scale. You take that and you apply it in a global sense. You get a global fascism based on all of those things coming together. Dangerous. What are you seeing on campuses right now? You're seeing the left, woke progressives coming together with Islamic ideology, people supporting Palestine, which is supported by Iran, which has an Islamo-fascist government in place already. You combine that with wokeism, progressivism. That's what you've got going on these campuses. And I'm talking to people and I keep saying, no, you know what? You take a look. America is under attack. It is. This is a new form of warfare. And The useful idiots out on the campuses are doing the dirty work without even realizing what they're doing. It's not really just about Palestine. It's about from Turtle Island to the sea. Palestine, how's the phrase go last night? From Turtle Island to the sea. I can't remember what they said. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. And then last night they changed it from Turtle Island to Palestine. Occupation is a crime. Guess what? Occupation. Who are the occupiers? That's all of us here on Turtle Island. And I'm told, oh no, don't worry about that. That will never come to pass. Oh no, it's happening. It's happening right now. It's already well underway. You're going to see a convergence, more polarization. I will predict now that you will see the Liberals, the NDP in Canada, cozy up more and more and more to the pro-Palestine movement. You'll see the ideology, which in Canada has largely been communistic under Trudeau. It will become more and more fascistic, if it isn't already. It certainly is on the corporate side. That's my prediction. You'll see him drift away from Israel. He already has. He's just not saying so publicly because he still wants the Israelis to vote for him. And the support in the United States as well, while it may seem like Biden is firmly behind Israel, or so he says, ironclad, he says his guarantee is, no, not so much. He wants those Muslim votes, and Michigan needs them desperately. So that's partly why you're seeing what you're seeing right now. The demographics are changing. The politics has changed over the past couple of decades, and in the past 10 years especially. And you are getting a new form of fascism. It's a neo-fascism, a globalist neo-fascism. Communo-fascism, I've been calling it for a long time. You're getting convergence. People's mindsets are changing. We're seeing just in the last day huge numbers of students and protesters, whether they're students or not, on campuses across the United States actually down on their knees, praying with the other Islamists in the crowd, learning about the religion. You take a society, you turn it secular, you tell people how evil Christianity is, you spend decades undermining faith in our institutions, faith in God, faith in Christianity, demonizing it in media. The country loses its moral compass. People are out there searching for something. They've replaced it largely with the state in a communist style, socialistic style transformation. Under Obama, what did we get? He said he wanted to fundamentally transform America. This is the guy who sent plane loads of cash to Iran. And has America fundamentally transformed since Obama's days in the White House? And who's really in charge over there now? What are you really seeing? Is Biden really the guy running things? Or is there someone else pulling the strings behind the scenes? Every indication is that Obama still has some leverage over there, and so too do the Clintons. America has been fundamentally transformed, hasn't it? It's been happening right before our eyes, and yet we haven't been seeing it, and it's happening right now, and people are still largely not seeing it or understanding it. New kind of warfare. Are we awake? Maybe only one eye open still. I've been telling people, open the other eye, open the other eye. Not to say that, everything is bad, and doesn't mean every person is bad. You have to judge people on an individual level. But, even as today I saw that interview with Alexander Dugin. Russia's, I'd say, foremost philosopher. I watched it. Tucker Carlson interviewed him. In fact, here he is over on Sputnik. If you want to go check it out, you can certainly do that. I found it an interesting interview. That's not Dugin there, but there it is right there. Tucker Carlson interviews Russian philosopher Alexander Dugin. And of course, we saw Alexander Dugin's daughter was killed, apparently by Ukrainians. And his books, I guess, have been taken off Amazon. I think Tucker Carlson said, Dugin's ideas are so dangerous they've banned his books in the West. I don't know if his ideas are dangerous, but I certainly see, well, then maybe they are to the West. I listened to him, and man, I did not agree with very much at all of what he said. He says there's too much individualism. Called for collectivism. And I disagree with that entirely, because I think there's nothing really more important than individual rights and freedoms. That's what freedom is all about. It's about you as an individual having existential choice. Do I turn left or do I turn right? It's my choice. Do I want to live in this city or live over there? It's my choice. Do I get a thing in the arm or not? Your choice. Your rights as an individual. That's what the state is supposed to do, is protect those rights. You adopt a collectivist ideology, and you as an individual, you don't really mean much of anything. That makes it real easy for the state to abuse you, use you, and even sacrifice you. You have no value. But on the flip side, they generally take care of you. That's the trade-off. They'll feed you and water you and make sure you don't die, keep you alive. But there's a price to be paid for being kept. That price is your freedom. With freedom comes responsibility. You're responsible for you. Means you have to work. Means nobody owes you anything. Really. Means you have to take care of yourself, and then once you've done that, and you've prospered, and you've taken care of yourself and your family, and you've generated enough affluence, you can share that and build a better community around you, which is also in your best interest. It's in your best interests to help your community. It's good to have good neighbors and to have good relations with your neighbors. And that's the way communities work, and that's the way communities are built. And you do form alliances, partnerships. You become a member of a church or a community group, working together on that level to make your community better. But you are an individual, and you have individual rights. Yeah, and some can say they come from God, or that they're naturally bestowed, and it's really the job of the state to protect them. But you listen to somebody like Alexander Dugin, and he says, oh no, individual rights have gone way too far. He tells Tucker Carlson in that interview, which I'm not going to run here, you can go watch it for yourself, but he tells Tucker Carlson that they've gone so far in the West that people are now being allowed to decide as individuals what they want to be. And he uses like artificial intelligence as an example. You can just create a reality online, or you can be any sex that you want. You can be anything that you want. And he views that as being, a situation where individual rights have gone awry and are out of control. But I say he's wrong. He's not reading it properly. You see, those kinds of concepts, they come from identity politics, from the progressive left, which is wrapping around and converging with the radical right, honestly. And you're seeing it on the campuses. You see, it's those ideas about you can be anything you want to be. That's not about individual rights. I mean, it does make use of that concept of individual rights. Like, you have to protect my rights as an individual so that I can identify as a hamster, or what do they call those people that we were talking about the other night who dress up in those furry outfits? Fur. Oh, I can't even remember now. Furry fandoms, right? Kids going to school dressed up like stuffed animals or cartoon characters in fuzzy outfits, losing their minds. Kind of weird. And there's a sexual component to it as well. But that's not about individual rights and freedoms. That's actually kind of the opposite, because it's about a collectivist idea, and it's about dividing people into groups. It's about group identity. You identify as you're a woman, but you identify as a man. You're like born a woman, but then you say you're a man. Now you become part of the LGBTQ S plus whatever group, and then the subgroup of that subgroup. And what they're really doing is just dividing people into groups to divide and conquer, because you're not really coming together at all. And really what it ends up happening is you become part of this group of gay people, and over here you're blacks, and you're over here and you're white. And with each group you're in a hierarchy, and it's all designed to pit people against each other and compete. And yet this collectivist mindset will tell you that it's about equality and bringing people together, and it's about equity, which is a different concept than equality. It's about equal outcomes and transfer of wealth. No, identity politics and identifying as something, that's not about individual rights at all. And in fact, it's an infringement on your rights when it goes overboard, and then they start to tell you that you must accept someone who is telling you that there's something they're not. Now you can have, I'm all for the freedom for people to do whatever the heck they want. If they want to identify, go ahead. But with the issue of gender pronouns, for instance, with Jordan Peterson, that's an overreach. And now you're infringing on someone else's right to view the world through the lens of even reality. And it gets to the point where this collectivist mentality, masquerading as individual rights and freedoms, begins to skew reality itself, which is something else Alexander Dugin speaks to in the interview with Tucker Carlson, where he talks about artificial intelligence and what is going on online. And he talks about creating realities online. And he talks actually, and this was very interesting, given that we're in this information war, he talks in that interview as well about movies in America and how movies are actually a reflection of reality. I thought that was a very interesting statement coming from Alexander Dugin, because movies are not reality. Now, he's really kind of making reference to predictive programming. You see this movie from like the 70s or the 80s, say a movie like Soylent Green, where there's a food shortage and they use human bodies to make biscuits to feed the masses, right? To feed the overpopulated world. And people don't realize that they're actually becoming cannibals because they're eating these biscuits made of people. Soylent Green is people, so yelled Charlton Heston in the movie. Well, Alexander Dugin would have you believe that that's actually reality. The movies in America reflect a reality. And then it becomes that because of the overarching or the overreach of individual rights and freedoms, where people then create their own reality online. And I would suggest that it's kind of the opposite, okay? I would say that it's not real at all, but what has happened is statements like that coming from foreign influencers, even the CIA, maybe back the other way, but these lettered agencies, these secret intelligence services engaging in this online information war through movies as well and media of all kinds. They're creating a reality, an artificial reality within the matrix, to the point where now all of this propaganda, all of this craziness that we see online that we're being subjected to has driven some people literally insane. Because people actually now, people sitting at home who are drugged out, smoking their weed, wake and bake, first thing in the morning, or LSD, or whatever hard drug Trudeau wants to provide for you, and you've got a bunch of mentally vulnerable people, especially after the lockdowns, watching all of this stuff, and you have all of these influences coming in online, and now artificial intelligence as well, and people living, maybe not, maybe not completely plugged into the matrix, but because people are so glued to their phones all the time, our minds are largely in the matrix already. And because we're subjected to all of this, war propaganda included, people can't tell the difference between what's real and what isn't. And I just showed you video out of Sweden, and before I ran it, I said, be careful. It might actually be recycled footage, for all I know. There's no way for me to know for sure. And tonight, I saw Johnny was talking about this. He's saying there's an attack in Damascus from Israel. I went online. I couldn't find any, information to confirm that. It could well be. I don't know. But I did find a lot of footage that could easily have been recycled or used to tell us that there is this attack, and I don't even know because I'm not there, but you've got pictures of missiles flying through the air. It's just a movie. And so isn't it interesting that you have somebody talking about artificial reality and artificial concept, living in the matrix with people and saying that it's the West kind of doing it to us, but you've got Tucker Carlson talking to this Russian philosopher who is really selling his version of collectivism to people and further amplifying the confusion surrounding everything, telling people that you can't believe anything your government's telling you, and what you're seeing and people are, and the movies are real. And then I hear people saying all the time, this is all just a movie. It's all just a movie. Is it? Think about Orwell in 1984. Two sides, both of which, two opposing world views, two governments on opposite sides that kind of need each other because they need to be fighting with each other all the time. That's what 1984 was largely about. And so they create this conflict that's constantly ongoing. And then the people are expected to pick a side, and then they're polarized. And over here, you're on this side, and on that side, you're with the other half of the world, and there's a constant war going on. And the people are caught in the middle of it all, manipulated, and you don't even know what the truth is anymore. The Ministry of Truth. You're seeing all this censorship going on now. Government's controlling information, manipulating all of us. Here we are in the matrix. I'm speaking to you in the matrix right now, and I'm a real person. Trust me, I'm not an AI-generated holograph of some kind sitting here in bits and bytes, but I am. By the time I come to you, am I real? I am. But what else is real? It's hard to know, isn't it? And it's enough to drive you loopy after a while, especially when you're seeing all this AI stuff, and there's a ton of it out there. And then people are supposed to pick a side in a war? Based on what? What's the truth? It's all politically motivated at the best of times and the worst of times, in the past times, in the near past times, in the ancient times, even then. When it comes to politics, there isn't a whole lot of truth in it because it's all spin. Makes you question even history. Knowlton Nash, former anchor, CBC News, executive journalist, someone that I learned from, not directly, I met him, read his books, followed his work, but he described news as history on the run, always documenting it. As I see what's going on right now with these wars, two realities, more than one reality being spun up for people to formulate an opinion and take a stand one way or another, pick a side like it's a sporting event. Based on what? One government telling you one thing, another government telling you another thing, and then another government from the outside being involved but telling you something different. Who do you trust? What do you believe? Can you believe any of it? So many people died in Gaza. What's the number? 30,000, 35,000? Do I hear 32,000? Do I hear 33, 33, 34, 44, 30, 34, 5, 34, 5, 34, 5, 35, 30, 36,000? Do I believe it? I'd take it all with a grain of salt. I don't know what the accurate number is. Certainly, I think a lot of people have died over there, but I don't know what the real number is. And I certainly wouldn't take it at face value because it's coming from one side, not both. And that's something, it's not some impartial organization either. So I don't know is the answer. I don't know. And I'm not afraid to say that I don't know, and that's important. Base your stake your reputation on what somebody else tells you. I don't know. That's the truth. So I'm not afraid to go there. It's not a cop-out either. It's about responsibility, caution. It's prudent. Alexander Dugin. Tucker Carlson. A lot of Russian interviews there lately. Pretty cool. How impartial is it? How accurate? I don't know. Making me question a lot of things these days. As I sit here and try and get everybody closer to the truth, I see the country under attack. I see all these issues bubbling to the surface. I don't even know sometimes if the politicians are on the side that they say that they're on. Or the activists, if they're really doing things because they are pushing for what they seem to be on the surface. I think a lot of these are like double agent, double trouble, upside down, opposite agents, if that makes any sense. It's like they're working for the other side even though they say they're on that side. I can see that in some cases. Or sometimes the actions of a group that might even not be intending to do it seem to end up benefiting the other side. Case in point, Justin Trudeau just this past week. What's he talking about all the time? Diagolon. Doesn't stop talking about it. Trying to hammer Pierre Poilievre with the Diagolon extremist group narrative in Canada. Just because Poilievre, leader of the Conservative Party, goes to a freedom, axe the tax protest thing on the side of a highway, comes out of a trailer. There's a little drawing. It's like this big, like teeny tiny Diagolon flag. And you know, if you're in Canada, you know what that Diagolon thing is. It's a group of guys online. We've had some of them in the chat, some of them here. We've talked to Jeremy McKenzie of Diagolon. Jokes tonight about the mascot, Philip the Goat, in the chats here. Some people say it's not even a real thing. Well, it is a real thing. It's a group of people. How political are they? Government's afraid of them, apparently. Enough so that they use that as the basis for the invocation of the Emergencies Act during the Freedom Convoy, as though that group was an existential threat to the government itself. Is it? Was it? Some people say yes, some people say no. You can make up your own mind. It is funny to me, a lot of the stuff that goes on with those guys, and it's odd to see that while they don't, this is funny, I think this is actually hilarious. I don't think they support Pierre Poilievre and the Conservatives at all. I don't think they're on side with Pierre Poilievre, and they endorsed him because they want the opposite to happen. They want him hurt somehow, I think. Because they don't endorse Poilievre. It's a joke. That's the point. It's a joke. Them endorsing Poilievre came out because that then forces, because they know that when they do that, Trudeau will then come out and talk about it and call on Poilievre to disavow Diagolon. And if he doesn't, it becomes this big political issue. And indeed, we've seen that in Parliament repeatedly and at news conferences for the past week. Almost every day, Trudeau's out there and he keeps talking about Diagolon. It's like free advertising. Who wins in that scenario? Diagolon wins because they got Trudeau to talk about it and they put pressure on Poilievre. I don't know if either one of those politicians come out ahead. I think it probably hurts both of them to some degree. But it certainly was giving Trudeau some ammo to weaponize his speech and I guess maybe firm up support with his base against the far right, whatever that is. Far right's looking a lot like the far left to me these days. I can't tell the difference. If they are even extremists. Some people, going to the conspiracy route and saying that Diagolon is actually working for Trudeau and the Liberals. I don't know. These days, man, you can't tell what's real. Anything's possible, I guess. I'm not judging. You can judge for yourself, man. The whole thing is like twisted and it's just enough to drive you nuts. Isn't it? You don't know what's true. Are they lying, telling the truth? Are they acting in good faith? Probably not. They're probably all lying to us. So I guess we should probably be careful before we take too hard a stand on anything, right? And become too committal on any issue or certainly any war. I just want peace because it's always regular people that get caught in the crossfire. Yeah, and I don't want to see people singled out or marginalized or scapegoated because that leads to a very dark place very quickly. And again, when that happens, it's just regular people that suffer. You get the Israeli government making a decision to retaliate after October 7th, and then all that rhetoric gets ramped up again, and then you see people yelling at their next-door neighbor in Canada or confronting someone on the street at a protest and fighting because of what two political groups like Hamas versus the Israeli government, backed up by this government, and that side's backed up by that government. And you can't even tell who's really supporting whom, and everybody's all twisted around. You can't really tell, and yet they're still fighting over it. And it comes to the streets here, to the point where people are convinced to go out and at Penn State, students are vowing to start a hunger strike. They're going to go on a hunger strike till they get what they want. And I guess that's divestment, not just in companies surrounded or connected to Israel, but the military-industrial complex as well. Well, what's that going to do? You disarm America, the world's biggest, or maybe second biggest, but certainly the biggest individual superpower even today. Oh, you want to disarm America. How about the other countries? How about everybody disarm? Then I'm on board. Unilateral disarmament sounds kind of risky to me. Don't think that's really a good idea. But I'm all for the peace talks. That would be a good thing. Hold all of them accountable, all the way around the world. Let's force these politicians, or as our good friend Chusey would say, the Knights of Malta, hold them accountable. Exile them! For crying out loud. That's real peace. One side? No. It takes two to tango or more. Got to have all the players involved in the same thing, or it ain't going to work, because then you just have somebody surrendering. Got to learn to live together and stop killing each other. It's not a cop-out. It's a vision. It starts with you. Starts with me. Starts with all of us as individuals making personal choices, not allowing ourselves to be manipulated. I mean, I take a stand on these issues, and so everybody else does too, but I'm always trying to approach it from the perspective of how do we serve the people the best, serve the public interest. And you have to recognize, man, that you might want collectivism, and they might be calling for unity. I get that, kind of. But that's collectivism, man. It starts with you, and you need your rights protected as an individual. I disagree with Alexander Dugin. The bigger the state, the smaller the citizen. You want to be enslaved, embrace collectivism, embrace communism, embrace fascism. Two sides of the same coin coming around and wrapping onto each other, and we're seeing it right now. It's the most dangerous thing ever. This is the most dangerous form of fascism in history. This neo-fascistic movement. Communo-fascism. It's communism combined with ethno-nationalism, combined with corporatocracy, combined with identity politics, sexual or gender identity, layered on top. Religion is just one of the sticks being added to the bundle. It's everything. The most volatile, controversial, inflammatory aspects of society all coming together in one big bundle of fascistic sticks. Very difficult to break, very dangerous, especially if that big bundle of fascistic sticks is used as a weapon to whack you. It's big, it's heavy, it's powerful, and it will crush you if you stand in the way of the collective, of that big bundle of fascistic, communo-fascistic sticks. Shut up, be a good slave. Don't say anything against the state. Keep your nose clean. They'll take care of you. Yeah, they'll corral you. You'll be fed. You'll be watered. Like a goat. Or a dog. Or a cow. And when they get tired of people complaining too much, they'll distract you, the two sides, and they'll start fighting again. Well, they won't. They'll let you fight. They'll let us all fight. We'll be fighting them, and they'll be fighting us. We'll be launching missiles, and we'll be using iron domes to protect ourselves, and going deeper and deeper into debt. $100,000. What is it, a second or a minute? Either way, we can't afford it. In the United States, that's the reality of the debt today. Spending money so fast, we'll never pay it off. Not in a real sense. We'll have to inflate our way out of it, I guess. That's what's going on right now. Irresponsible politicians, corruption. And it's not as simple as all the tropes that people throw out there. It just isn't. Most of the stuff we're being told is just skewed. It's a lie. Oh, it's AIPAC. Oh, I know. I had somebody, a good friend, send me information about AIPAC. AIPAC. The Jews controlling everything. It's not really true. AIPAC isn't even in the top 10 when it comes to how much money they spend to influence government. Oh, sure, they're in there, and they do spend money to influence politicians to get things that they want. Definitely a factor. And all of these organizations need to be held accountable, but the numbers that I saw, you can make statistics say anything. It's not real. See, the numbers I saw, that was for the lifetime of a politician. Each one listed as how much money they got from AIPAC, but that wasn't like in a year. And I could show you the information that was sent to me, but these statistics were not being projected or distributed in good faith. And the reality is that you have brewing companies, you have social media companies, giants like Google, Facebook, you have even the Real Estate Association is actually the National Association of Realtors in the United States, I think, is the #1 contributor to politicians. I think it's about $1.5 billion. Don't quote me on the number, but it's every year. They spend more than anybody. #1 in campaign contributions in order to influence politicians. Not AIPAC, not the Jews, not these activist or social action groups, advocacy groups that can fall under AIPAC. They're not even in the top 20. Not even in the top 30. They're somewhere around like 34, 35, 34th or 35th in total contributions. Not to say that that isn't significant. It certainly is. But it doesn't mean they control the world, and it doesn't mean they control all the things that happen in the U.S. government. There's a lot of influence all the way around. I'll tell you something else. All these organizations, these contributors, well, not all of them, most of them, they contribute to both sides. They split it up, so they kind of get it. No matter what happens, no matter which way people vote, they have influence on both sides. But at least you still have a vote. And it doesn't mean the system is entirely broken. There's still hope. System's there. Some people in the world don't like that. They want to take that away from you. They don't even want you to have a vote. And I'll tell you right now, when I see the people out there, all these people trying to tear everything down, be very, very careful, my friends. The reason people are out in the streets protesting the way that they protest often is because they don't believe in democracy. They've given up on democracy, largely. They can't get what they want because they can't get people to vote for it because they don't have strong enough arguments, or they just don't have the numbers, or whatever the reason might be, so they give up on it, and they want to tear the system down in order to get what they want. But in order to make sure they keep what they get, once they get what they want, the new system, sure as heck, is not going to guarantee you a voice. It won't guarantee anybody a voice. The only truth, the only reality, will be what they deem it to be. You're going to get what they give you. And ladies and gentlemen, that is not democracy.
Fighting the Great Reset by leading the Great Resistance. Maverick News. The antivirus programs for your mind.
The New World Order. Government overreach. The Great Reset. Mainstream media lies. Now more than ever, independent voices are needed. Donate now, at freedomreporters.com. That's freedomreporters.com. Maverick News. The antivirus program for your mind.
Okay, a couple of other things I think to share with you here tonight. I just want to check something before we move on to our next story, though. Yeah. Bring this up. Where are we at here? Just want to check a couple of these stories to see if we're up to date. I mentioned that story at Princeton. This is Princeton. I think Penn State's doing it too, but this is Princeton. I might be wrong about Penn State. It might just be Princeton. But I think they were talking about a hunger strike at Penn State too. Princeton students, oh man, they dressed up in Islamic attire today and announced that they're going on a hunger strike. And so it says that they're going to abstain from all food and drink except water until their demands are met. And those demands are to divest from Israel, a cultural boycott, and complete amnesty from all criminal charges. I guess because they've been protesting. I don't know what crimes they've committed. I guess maybe they have committed some crimes. Let's bring this up. I've got a clip here. Hunger strike, Princeton students. Here they are.
The Princeton Gaza Solidarity Encampment announces the initiation of a hunger strike in solidarity with the millions of Palestinians in Gaza suffering under the ongoing siege by the State of Israel.
The Israeli occupation has deliberately blocked access to basic necessities to engineer a dire famine for the 2 million residents of Gaza. Since the announcement on October 9th by the Israeli Defense Minister prohibiting the entry of food, fuel, and electricity into the Gaza Strip, Israel has systemically obstructed and limited access to vital aid for Palestinians in Gaza, even intentionally destroying existing cropland. On March 18th, the UN Secretary General declared that, quote, "This is the highest number of people facing catastrophic hunger ever recorded by the Integrated Food Security Classification System," unquote. To make bread, Gazans have been forced to use animal feed as flour. To break their fasts in Ramadan, Gazans have been forced to prepare meals of grass. 97% of Gaza's water has been deemed undrinkable since October 2021, and they have been forced to drink dirty salt water to survive.
The consequences of this unprecedented famine, created and maintained by Israel, will devastate Gaza's children for generations to come and cannot be tolerated any longer. We have begun our hunger strike to stand in solidarity with the people of Gaza. We are drawing from the tradition of Palestinian political prisoners going on saltwater-only hunger strikes in Israeli prisons since 1968.
Our hunger strike is a response to the administration's refusal to engage with our demands for dissociation and divestment from Israel. We refuse to be silenced by the university administration's intimidation and repression tactics. We struggle together in solidarity with the people of Palestine. We commit our bodies to their liberation.
We will abstain from all food and drink except water until the following demands are met. Meet with students to discuss their demands for disclosure, divestment, and a full academic and cultural boycott of Israel. Grant complete amnesty from all criminal and disciplinary charges for participants of the peaceful sit-in. Reverse all campus bans and evictions of students. The university and the world must recognize that we refuse to be complicit in genocide and will take every necessary action to change this reality. Our hunger strike
though small in comparison to the enduring suffering of the Palestinian people, symbolizes our unwavering commitment to justice and solidarity.
Okay, so enough of that. And also, Kevin Michalitsy sent information to us from Crimea. But this is information about another arrest in connection with the Moscow terror attack. Now, I'm having difficulty getting the video that was sent to me from here to you, but I do have other video that has just been released. I believe this was released by the Russian FSB. And again, some of this may be a little bit disturbing for some people, so viewer discretion is advised. So what happened here, apparently, according to Russian authorities, is one of the organizers of the terrorist attack in Crocus City Hall has been eliminated or killed. Not the main organizer, but somebody involved. So today, the FSB announced that during an arrest attempt, the agent of the Ukrainian Military Intelligence Service, GUR Nikolai Surnov, was eliminated. He was one of the alleged accomplices and organizers of the terrorist attack in the Crocus Concert Hall. The FSB showed a video of the liquidated Ukrainian agent who planned the terrorist attacks in Russia. The footage also shows explosives and weapons found in his car. And I will show you what we have here. Again, it's just fresh. Share it with you. I think this is it. I don't think this is the same footage that was Kevin sent me. This is different. This is different footage. They've arrested a bunch of people, though. This is certainly related. Let me just pull out of that. See if I can get you more context on what we've just seen there. This is an accomplice, apparently, of the Crocus City Hall attack, tracked by Russian FSB, and then neutralized after he resisted arrest. That's the information that was posted here. With that, let me see if I can find you. Oh, there's the footage of footage of the other. That was from the beginning, the first guys who were arrested. Yeah, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to show you the video on my phone. Not the cleanest or the fanciest way to do it, but I do want to show you this footage. I hope you'll be able to see it. Okay, here you go. So there's the footage in this. See the vehicle in the background there? Whatever works, right? Kind of low-tech in a high-tech world, but this is the footage. And this is what they found in the back of the vehicle. Looks like they had some stuff to make weapons or bombs, maybe. explosive devices. I don't know what that is. I'm not a weapons expert on that level. And guns, ammo. And again, this footage apparently released by the FSB. So you can have proper context on it and understanding what it is. More weapons, more weapons. Yeah, it's correspondence, I guess, but it's in Russian. So I hope that helps give you proper context and perspective on that ongoing story. And those suspects are still making court appearances. We'll be hearing more about it, no doubt. Well, folks, that kind of brings things to a conclusion here tonight. I can only say that if you want to support the program, you can certainly do that by donating at maverickdonations.com. or at freedomreporters.com. And yeah, I did mention last night, that we do have some hoodies. And again, a few. So if you donate $60 or more, I can send you a hoodie. And also, I said they're all in black, but I wasn't entirely accurate. Because somehow, in the mix, we got 2 gray ones. Gray hoodies. They are, therefore, collector's items. Medium. And get them all are hot, because we only have 2. Medium and medium. 2 medium hoodies in gray. Yeah, pretty nice. I don't know how we ended up with gray, but that's what he sent over. The gentleman who takes care of the printing and stuff. So we got a couple of gray ones, collector's items. So $60 donation or more, and I can send you black, or if you take a medium, I've got 2 gray medium hoodies. Here's the other thing I think we're going to do. Wacko Trudeau t-shirts. Going to get some of those made up. If you guys would like to do that, I can take pre-orders on them. Don't have the design yet, but I can maybe get that done over the next day or two. If you want a Wacko Trudeau t-shirt, make a donation of $30 or more and tell me that you want that instead of a regular Maverick News t-shirt, and I can make sure that you get one of those as soon as they're printed up and ready to go. Probably have them in about a week. You'll probably get that done. So, yeah. Wacko Trudeau shirts. I think people will like those. And I appreciate you guys spending the night here with me. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe if you like what you're seeing. Subscribe over on YouTube. Hit the notification bell so that you don't miss anything. And make sure that you head on over to Rumble. And if you'd be so kind, please consider subscribing to our channel over there, too. We need the support. We're growing over there, the free speech platform where we are less encumbered. But we persevere, and I'll be back tomorrow night as our quest for truth continues. Love you guys. Catch you on the flip side.
This has been a Maverick Multimedia production.